Hello, Scott Chocolate here. Today I'm going to show you how to put together one of my favorite kinds of chocolate. It's going to be very similar in taste to the Andes candy chocolate that comes in little green packs. It's a two-color mint. So I'm going to actually do this in two phases. The first phase will be the mint part, which will be, I'm going to pour in the bottom of the molds, and then we'll let that harden, and then we'll make the chocolate and pour that on the top. The first part, the mint part. So the mint part, we're going to start with white chocolate. So I'm going to make my white chocolate. I'll tell you what's in my white chocolate recipe that I'm going to use for this particular candy that I'm putting together. It starts out with 43% cocoa butter. So on top of that, we're going to add 37% sugar and 20% milk powder. Now, if you watched my milk chocolate recipe, it's actually the same recipe, except for there's no cocoa solids put in it. I just substitute all cocoa butter in replacing that, so it's going to taste, in sweetness very similar to my milk chocolate. Now, that just basically makes it a white chocolate. To make it flavored like mint, I've got peppermint, which is in an oil form. This comes from you can get this from like Lorraine's Candy if you order online, but it's an actual oil extract. So you can just add it right to your chocolate without any fear of seizing anything. And then the other thing that's in there is just a little bit of green food coloring. So I've preheated up my cocoa butter, and that's all melted here. So we'll maybe start by getting that put in the blender. Alright, so we got that put in. The thing about this is it's liquid, there's nothing to crunch, so we can pretty much start adding our sugar and our milk powder, right on top of this. So I'll start adding that in here too. So you can see that kind of, creates a little bit of a bind when you put that in. But, this will have a fairly high fat content to it, so it should be able to mix in fairly quickly. So I'm just going to add a little more in. In this recipe, I'm only making a pound of white chocolate. And then I'll make a pound of dark chocolate. I kind of cut my normal recipe in half, only because I'm making two different kinds that are combined together. So you'll get, that same 6-7 bars of chocolate on the end, but it'll be made of two different kinds of chocolate. So as far as the oil itself, I use peppermint. You could use a creamed mint if you got that. But that's just a different form of peppermint. So I just choose to use peppermint. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of peppermint in here. Peppermint oil. And it looks like I kind of scribbled some in, but alright. I guess approximately. I kind of dribbled that in, so a lot of this will depend on taste. You could I'll probably sample this at some point and see what I think. I'll let you know if I end up putting a little more mint in, but I don't want to overdo it initially, because you can always add more, obviously. So we'll work a little bit more sugar in there. You know, interesting enough with these melangers, at least mine anyway, the gear is driven on the bottom, so what actually turns is the metal tub. The rollers, their turning motion comes from the bottom of the plate coming in contact with this. So if by chance that something would get in there and one of those rollers gets jammed, you know, from time to time it will, it may stop that roller from rolling, but it's not going to strip any gears or anything, because really what makes that roller go round and round is just being in contact with the bottom of this bin. So there's really nothing to worry about as far as if you do happen to jam your machine up, it's not going to break it. But you can see, looking at this, and I'll show a picture of it here after I get it all in and running. But it's pretty thick and granular because, you know, you got the sugar and the milk powder and all that material has to be processed and ground down. As you can see, I was able to get that in fairly quickly. Now we're just going to let this churn. So as far as the color, you know, this is just food coloring. I want to be a little bit careful with it, only because, you know, you're not supposed to put a liquid water in it. I don't want it to seize up, but I don't think a couple drops will give us any issues. So I'm going to put a few drops of food coloring in it, maybe a half a dozen here, and we'll see what that does to the color. So it's kind of has made it kind of a real light green. So we're just going to let that be. We might add a few drops a little bit later, but you know, for the most part, put a little in. You know, don't overdo it, only because, like I said, you really should try to avoid anything that isn't oil-based into your chocolates. So anyway, so this is the first phase of my Andes chocolate, or my mint chocolate. Right here you can see this is the white chocolate inside the melanger. I did add a little bit more food coloring. I'm probably up to about 12 drops or so now. I kind of took a quick taste of it for mint, and I did add just a little bit more mint, so I'm probably up to, you know, I probably added another half of what I put in before, so, you know, I had a quarter, so I guess we're probably at about 3/8 of a teaspoon of mint. I'll probably taste it one more time, maybe we'll add just a little bit more. I do like a heavier mint flavor. I guess I would maybe suggest that you add the mint kind of to your taste. A lot of it will depend on the strength of the mint that you are putting in there as to what the final product will be. So here you have the white chocolate colored with mint flavor. It's been running here in the melanger now for probably about 15-16 hours. I'm going to let it run maybe a little bit longer. Normally I would let it run 24 hours for my chocolate, but since this doesn't have any cocoa solids in it, it doesn't need to run quite as long. There's not as much material to grind and to process. As you can see, it's green from the food coloring, and altogether I added about a half a teaspoon of mint flavoring, peppermint flavoring. So I've tasted it a couple of times, and I'm kind of happy with that. So you can see here I've got the chocolate out, the white chocolate, mint flavored, and I'm going to begin tempering here. You know, this one's about, it shows 95. Stir it up a little bit. It's probably a little warmer than that, 98. This one over here is, well, just under 90. So it's starting to cool. So we'll temper this similar to as if it were milk chocolate. And then when it's done, we're gonna pour it into molds. All right, hello, Scott Chocolate back here. So I've got my mint flavored white chocolate all tempered up and ready to pour in molds. I'm gonna try to make 8 bars with this. I typically overfill my bars, so I'm gonna try not to do it this time. So I'm gonna start filling my bars. So I want this to actually make 8 bars, so I don't have quite as much chocolate in each bar. So kind of bear with me as I kind of try to spread this amongst 8 bars. Maybe if it looks like I'm getting not enough, I may take it down to 7 bars, but we're going to see how that goes. All right. So first we're just going to try to evenly distribute it amongst these 8 molds. You can see it's very fluid. This particular blend of milk chocolate, it's got a fairly high fat content, so it's a couple things are going to happen. It's going to be a little bit more fluid when you're pouring it out in your molds, and it also won't run as quite as high a temperature when it's in the melanger itself. You know, it doesn't have all the cocoa solids in there, so it doesn't have as much grit or as much friction going on. So you'll notice when you take it out of the melanger, it's significantly cooler than a dark, dark chocolate with a lot of cocoa solids. That's just due to the amount of particles in there. So now, after I got this in there, I'm just gonna, try to get this stuff spread around as evenly as possible, so it, coats the bottom of the mold. So basically, just kind of like this, we're gonna let it seek its level on the bottom of the mold, and the next step then will be to pour chocolate, a dark chocolate on top of this. We'll have like a 2-colored mint chocolate. Yeah, I have them spread out in amongst my molds, and basically we'll let this harden up, and after I got my other dark chocolate done, we'll pour this on top, and we'll have my version of a mint Andes chocolate. You can see here I got my dark chocolate just finishing up here in the melanger. You can see it's a nice creamy dark brown mixture. I'm going to let it run for a few more hours yet, and then we'll get ready to take it out, temper it up, and pour it on top of my mint chocolate. So you can see I've got my mint chocolate over here. Turned out real nice. So I've got, I believe 8 bars here I'm going to pour up. Hello, Scott Chocolate back. See, I have my dark chocolate done and tempered up and ready to pour onto my molds. So I'm going to start doing that. This chocolate was made with 50% cacao beans or liquor. After that I added 30% sugar and 20% cocoa butter. So that was kind of the finished recipe for this one. So it's not quite as much chocolate, I guess, or cacao as what my other dark chocolate recipe has been. But I'm going to give that one a try here for this particular bar. Okay, I've poured half of them off here. Now I'm just going to take a little moment here to kind of move this chocolate around, get it situated on the bar where I want it. So while it's still warm and fluid, we get it in place. Now you can see it still moves pretty quickly, you know, but you want to get it done while the bar is, you know, I guess while the chocolate is still fluid. What you can do is you can always take your chocolate. I have a sink there that's got warm water in it from when I was tempering. So what I can do is just put my chocolate back in there and heat it up just a little bit again to get it warm so it stays fluid. But you can see the bars here. We'll let them harden, and I'll take them out and I'll show you them when they're done. One other thing I did with this chocolate, I do have some vanilla in there. I use extract. Now the way I can get away with using some extract is what I do is I'll take a little bit of almond oil and I'll put it in a little container. And you can either do it on the stove, or I do it on one of those candle burners where you put some oil in a little container and put your extract in there, and I'll let that you know, pretty much boil off the alcohol or whatever that extract was made in, so that flavoring will be left in that oil, and then just use that oil as your flavoring. It's one way to kind of cheat to get a flavoring into your chocolate without, you know, that can come actually in a liquid form. So I did that in this particular batch. So other than that, I think we've kind of went over the recipe of what I have in here. When these are hardened, I'll show you the completed bars. All right, so here we have the finished product. You can see it's still in the molds. As you take it out, you've got a green side on one side and a brown side on the other. And so basically I just I may trim these edges a little bit like this, pizza cutter, kind of, you know, clean them up a little bit, and then just basically just wrap it in tin foil. How I keep my chocolate. I don't keep my chocolate in the fridge. I actually keep it in my cupboard at you know, room temperature. It's actually better to eat it at room temperature. But yeah, as you can see then, nice chocolate bar. The this is one that I took out earlier. You can see it's got a nice snap to it. It's got a really good look. This is, you know, looks fairly similar to an Andes candy over, and I think they use 3 layers, but I use 2 for simplicity. But all in all, it tastes great. If you like a heavier mint taste, you could put a little more mint in it. I put about a half a teaspoon of mint oil. Now, if you want a little mintier, you could probably go up to maybe a 3/4 teaspoon. Wouldn't probably be too much, but it's actually very good. I have to say, this is one of my favorite recipes, only because I like the mint chocolate. One of my favorite chocolates, of course, I've always said I like the Dove chocolates. They have a mint chocolate also. It's not two-toned like this. It's all just kind of mixed together, but it's another wonderful chocolate to eat. So, but yeah, you can see, you know, these pop out of the molds, you know, pretty easily. You can just from there take it right to some tin foil, wrap it up, and there you have it. You know, and me, I usually put a little marker on it. This one, I'm going to just put an M on it so I know what it is. And you can see I store my chocolate back here. I've got you know, several bars of chocolate, and so if I want to try a chocolate or whatever. I've got my stash up there. So I'm making some for my mother. So it's always good to stay on the good side of your mother. Going home for a wedding here in another month, so I'm going to take some back for her so I don't have to mail it to her. But anyway, that was my mint chocolate recipe. I hope you try it, and I hope you enjoy it.